So after a very stressful last year where my husband was hit by a truck and underwent 3 shoulder surgeries, last October, I started feeling limited movement in my right shoulder area right here. So when I went to see the doctor, he thought it was tightened muscles. And so now I have limited movement in my right arm where I need the help of my left arm to be able to move it up. And I can't move it all the way to my ears like this. I can't do that. I can only go up to here. And I told the doctor that the reason why I have this condition, I know why I have it, is because last year I was so stressed over my husband's shoulder condition that by thought I created this condition myself because I did not get hit by a truck. I did not fall. I had no acute trauma to cause this. And I know in my soul, in that infinite wisdom part of us, that this happened because of my thoughts, that our thoughts create our reality. By law of attraction, I created this condition myself by the virtue of my thought. And so this really illustrates to me the power of our mind. The mind is the precursor to everything. So I want to discuss today about a deeper, more universal definition of consciousness because I think many of us, including me, have a very limited view of what consciousness really means and how it really affects our lives, because I really believe that everything on this physical plane, everything that we see, smell, hear, and touch is a result of our consciousness. So when I started learning about the law of attraction with Abraham Hicks and Louise Hay, Abraham Hicks is like the premier teacher of law of attraction, how our thoughts really create our reality, how our thoughts create our life. At first I thought that's crazy. I mean, how could we just think something and then the manifestation appears? I mean, how could we just keep thinking, that we're going to have $10 million and the $10 million is just going to appear? How can we just have thoughts that, we're going to have that fabulous husband or wife and that person just appears? Or, how can we just think that we have a job in our mind and then that job just magically appears? And it wasn't until I read this book called The Self-Aware Universe, How Consciousness Creates the Material World, that this is the book that really convinced me about the law of attraction, how our thoughts create our lives. And this book is written by a PhD physicist, Amit Goswami. I mean, this guy is a scientist, and this book is really what opened the floodgates for me about how our thoughts create our reality. And I think we have to have a deeper, more universal understanding of consciousness to really get that our minds are the most powerful things to create manifestations in our lives. So I had a very limited view of what consciousness really is, and I think most of us have a very limited view of the definition of consciousness, and that's what's really limiting our lives, because when we understand the deeper universal meaning definition of consciousness, that is when it opens up that floodgate of how powerful our mind really is. And so I created this chart to really kind of show you the limitations that I had about what consciousness really is. And I think most of us believe that consciousness is this definition. It's the human consciousness. So when somebody talks about conscious, like I'm conscious right now, I'm awake, I'm aware, they're limiting it to the human mind. So when I looked up the definition of consciousness, this is what they gave me. State of awareness of one's own existence, sensations, thoughts, surroundings. This one says the thoughts and feelings collectively of an individual or of an aggregate people. Full activity of the mind and senses as in waking life. So all of these three definitions really associate consciousness with the human mind. And that is a very, very limited definition of consciousness. Yes, consciousness is absolutely the human mind and having an awareness, whether it's conscious or subconscious. It's an intelligence, it's data, it's information. And that's what this definition is talking about, is really associated with the human mind. However, in order to really understand the power of our consciousness in our mind, we have to go to a more universal definition. And this is the definition that I created about what consciousness really is beyond our human mind. And so my definition that I wrote says, an intelligence with awareness which we cannot see, hear, smell, taste, or touch with our senses, that creates and gives life to the material world on this physical plane. So everything on this physical plane, everything that we can experience. So meaning that experience with our senses. And then I go to say the universe consciousness is something we can feel when we connect to our soul. So basically what I'm saying here is that the physical plane, everything that we see, smell, hear, and touch with our senses on this physical plane is a result of this intelligent awareness. Without that intelligent awareness, we cannot have anything on this physical plane that we are seeing with our senses, that we are smelling with our senses, or touching or hearing. So the intelligence with an awareness is the information, it's the data that our bodies and the universe needs in order to be organized and operate. It's like a computer. You know, the computer needs a program, it needs data in order to run and operate. Or our bodies, you know, every cell in our body is communicating, is exchanging information with all of the other cells in order for our bodies to run. It needs that data and information. And that's what this intelligence with awareness is. And so the physical plane manifestation that we can sense with our senses is a result of this universal consciousness. And so how do we kind of connect to that universal consciousness? Because we can't see it, smell it, hear it, or touch it. We connect it with it when we are able to access our soul. When we connect with our soul, that is when we can feel it. So when we meditate or when we quiet our minds, we're really raising our vibrational frequency and tuning into our soul. And when we tune into our soul, that is when we can feel how we are connected with everything in this universe, with this universal consciousness. That is why when the Buddha meditated for many, many years, he was focusing his mind, he was training his mind, and he was tuning into his soul. And then his soul just, when he became enlightened, it was just like a floodgate of feeling one with the universe and the universe being one with him. And he said everything in the universe was perfect because he was just so connected. So each one of us is part and parcel of this collective consciousness, not just the collective consciousness of all humans on this earth, but the collective consciousness of the entire universe. Each one of us is like a drop in that ocean. Each one of us is like the one sand on the beach. We are part of not just the collective consciousness of the human mind, but we are part of the collective consciousness of this entire universe. So each one of us has such power in our minds. I mean, you know, that drop in the ocean affects the ocean, right? Because if you have a million drops that are not healthy, then the ocean will not be healthy. So just think about the power of your mind. Your mind is the most powerful thing that there is. And so once we start to shift our definition, shift our perception and view of what consciousness really is, that is when we begin to understand the true power of our own minds. So a great example of this universal consciousness, that this intelligent awareness is in everything, within us and around us is really water. And I saw this amazing documentary that talked about water being a consciousness. And there was this Japanese scientist who just studied water. And so he had 3 glass bottles and he put rice and water in each bottle. And so every day for some duration of time, he would go in front of the water, and for bottle number 1, he said, "I love you, I love you, I love you." Bottle number 2, he said, "I hate you, I hate you, I hate you." Bottle number 3, he just ignored. And he did this for some duration of time. And after this duration, he noticed a change in the water. So water number 1, where he kept giving love and saying, "I love you, I love you, I love you," the water started to thrive. It started to ferment, started to have fermentation going on. It started to thrive. Water number 2, he started seeing some like green fungus. It started to rot. Water number 3, I think it was like black fungus. It was even worse than water number 2. It was like the worst. And what he concluded was that it's a consciousness. Your consciousness is connecting to the water consciousness, right? Because we're part of a whole. So when he gave love to water number 1, of course it's going to thrive. So then when he said, "I hate you," to water number 2, of course it's going to start becoming spoiled, with fungus. And so when he completely ignored water number 3, then it was in the worst state ever. So he said saying hate to a child is better than completely ignoring a child. So you see how our thoughts are directly connecting to our water. That water is a consciousness. So then he did experiment where he had a group of people that prayed over the water, prayed over like just faucet water. And faucet water is very, very poor quality. And after a while, after the group prayed over this water, he started seeing these beautiful crystals, because he was examining the water. The water was starting to really develop these beautiful crystals that really had high energy in the water. And he did the same thing with music. When he placed music with water, like Mozart or some beautiful classical music, the poor water quality started to form these beautiful crystals to become high quality water. So you can see from this story about just water that it is a consciousness. We can't just limit our minds to saying the human mind is consciousness. Everything in this universe is consciousness. Also, same thing with plants. Do an experiment. If you have a plant and you keep saying, "I love you, I love you, I love you," it's gonna thrive. Or you have that same plant and you say, "I hate you, I hate you, I hate you," it's going to die. Everything is a consciousness. So what I'm saying is we could take this universal consciousness and make it applicable to our lives. It becomes very practical. So as we put in thoughts and speak the words that we desire in our lives and push out thoughts that we do not desire in our lives, then we are creating that abundance, whether it's health, whether it's money, whether it's relationship, whether it's career, whether it's job. All kinds of opportunities can start to come to us because, like I said, our minds are connected to everything in this universe. So as we start to have thoughts about abundance and money, then we're connecting to the abundance of money, and the cooperative components are coming to us. Whether it's an investor, whether it's a business opportunity, we start connecting through our minds because our minds shift our energy, and our energy is constantly being broadcast out into the universe because we are connected to everything in this universe. And so our thoughts become the most powerful things in determining whether we're going to have a fulfilling life or an unhappy life. The power of our mind is absolutely the most powerful thing in our lives. So I hope you will open your mind to this concept of universal consciousness and how it can be really practical in our lives. And so if you have a story about how your mind created a manifestation like my bodily condition, like what I did to my own body, then please share your stories and experiences, because your comments, your feedback really help me and my community at large. And if you like this video, please make sure to share it and subscribe to my channel. And if you want to visit all of my spiritual and holistic living tips, just go to my website at yinandyangliving.com. 고맙습니다.